So for the life of this bike, for the last month, something just hasn't been right with it. And I think today, time to out myself about it. From what is essentially my saddle height, I have ridden it 2 centimeters higher and 2 centimeters lower. And not just like ridden to the shop and back, raced on it, trained on it, done efforts on it, and it's been quite interesting actually. Because it is super easy to just trawl through YouTube, trust me, I have done it, and get all the advice in the world from bike fitters, from coaches, professionals, all the rest of it on what bike fit and what angles should work for you. But what I wanted to do is give a rider's thoughts on what those saddle heights actually feel like on the road. So you might be able to feel those indications yourself. So let's get straight into it. My saddle height from the center of the saddle to the center of the bottom bracket has been in the vicinity of 73 centimeters for some time. But let's bump that up. Let's get that closer to 75 centimeters and well, what does it feel like?
Well, that height, that 2 centimeter rise, wasn't enough for me to feel that sort of bouncing on the saddle that a lot of those bike fitters tend to talk about on YouTube. You know, they sort of say that you can see it on the back, you're sort of bouncing around because it's so high. I didn't feel that that 2 centimeters was enough for me to get that. But if we slow down this pedaling, you'll probably see what I did pick up straight away. And that was in my toe. I kind of felt, right? I felt that I almost had to change the way my foot actually engaged with the pedal. And by that, I went like, well, not full, but I went the route of Van der Poel. I went the toe poking pedal stroke. And you can see there in some of these pedal strokes, you can see my toes that are flicking or flipping around a bit. But that's all in hindsight. That's me sort of looking at this now.
Out here on the road, it feels quite nice. So, like, especially at like the top of the pedal stroke, there's like, it's obviously just less, okay, all subjective obviously, but it just feels like there's less stress on the knees, you know, and there's more room at the top of the pedal stroke almost, so.
It also felt like my calves were actually doing more, and I'm sure like there's reasons for that. Bike fitters can let me know all the theory behind that, but it was interesting. The first few rides after doing this higher position, I definitely felt like I'd activated additional muscles almost in my calves.
I can't explain how difficult I found it putting power out on force flat downhills. Like anyone who saw me trying to do efforts since Centennial the other week, I'm out of the saddle on the downhills because I'm just like, I can't get power out down there, which I probably assume is just like, because I'm reaching, it's like reaching at the bottom of the pedal stroke, you know?
But if I had to be completely honest with you, like purely physiologically, if I was just riding around, just happily riding around at 220 watts, I would not notice any difference from this position. In fact, like I said on the road, I actually found it sort of, you know, almost like less constrictive. That said, I just could not get top end power out in that position. I just couldn't do it.
I can't help but think that I actually know the person who puts their saddle too high, because I know a lot of them. I know a lot of you. And it's a lot of people who get into the sport late in life. You know, you've come from maybe a rugby or cricket background, and you have a little knee problem. You had a little knee issue that forced you out of that game. That and the drinking problem that the rugby caused. And so you get on the bike and you're like, oh, I'm gonna stay away from any knee issues. So you bump your saddle up really high so there's no load on it. And there isn't any. But then you're not managing to put any power through the pedal. So it's certainly one to consider if you are that person. The gains, look, it's like anything. The gains on the bike are just from being balanced, not from overemphasizing anything.
So let's go the other way. I dropped my saddle from 73 centimeters down to just over 71 centimeters and tested that. And guys, I'll be honest, that was horrible. I really tried to concentrate on trying to engage my glutes, because obviously when your saddle drops so low, you just feel like everything's quads, right? You just like smash, mash, 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 mash. You just feel like it's all quad. So concentrated really hard on activating my glutes. And I don't know whether this is just the result of that, but my back was just so sore after riding. Not my knees, not anything like that, but it was my back, which I thought was interesting, given it was the back soreness as well when I was too high. The one thing I will say about dropping too low, and this has very much been something of my experience, I always come at this stuff from my own experience, but initially many years ago I had a real ankle flip in my pedal stroke, and what we did, actually I did this with Dan, is we dropped my saddle height quite a bit, and in an attempt to try and flatten my foot. And once we got the foot flattened, say that a few times really quickly, we actually then started coming back up and the pedal stroke sorted itself out. So,
any guesses as to whether this saddle height is too high or too low? Or is it just right? Yeah, so this is me back to 73.5 centimeters. And you know what's really interesting is, so the order of this is I went too low, then I went too high, and then I went back to my normal position. And going back to my normal position, it's taken me a while to almost sort my pedaling stroke back out. This is the first ride back at 73.5. And then this is 3 days later when I kind of felt like things were starting to smooth out a little bit. But guys, you know what the biggest indicator was for me? And this was purely like not looking at any pictures. I was just going purely by feel, right? But the biggest indicator for me was like when I was trying to ride a little bit above threshold or anything like that, the closer I got to my normal position, the less I wanted to slide forward on the saddle. So for any of you out there trying to do your own bike fit or something like that, that would be the indicator that I would use as my, oh, you know what, I don't think it's quite right, if that's what you want to do.
I really hope you enjoyed that, guys. I would love to hear your thoughts on your own technique, so your own thoughts about bike fitting. I mean, this is not me in any way trying to undermine or any professional bike fitters and that kind of stuff. I genuinely do feel there is benefit,
especially in the realm of injury prevention, but also like a lot of us have multiple bikes now. And so, you know, you may get that bike fit for maybe your road bike or something like that. But maybe there's some indicators out there, you know, you get your saddle height in a similar position for the gravel bike or the mountain bike, but are there some indicators that you can use on that bike so you don't have to fork out another $300 or $400 for a bike fit on the second bike?
This is my experience of playing around with my body to see what might work and really what doesn't work. So let us know your thoughts on that. If you've tried to do bike fits yourself, if there's any tricks or tips you have that might help in that regard. But for now, I am going to stay at 73.4 centimeters saddle height, and I think I might stay there for a while. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I will see you super soon.